The man who walked on the moon and got stuck. In July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history. The first humans to walk on another world. The whole world watched. Everyone cheered. It was the greatest achievement in human history. But here's what most people don't know. They almost didn't make it back. Several things went wrong, and any one of them could have been fatal. Let's start at the beginning. The lunar module was descending toward the moon's surface. Everything seemed perfect. Then, alarms started screaming. The computer was overloaded. It couldn't handle all the data. Armstrong had to take manual control. He looked out the window and his blood ran cold. They were heading straight toward a crater, a massive crater, filled with boulders the size of cars. If they landed there, the module would tip over, break apart. They'd be dead. Armstrong didn't panic. He flew the module like a helicopter, searching for a safe spot, all while the fuel gauge was dropping. Mission Control watched the numbers drop. 60 seconds, 40 seconds, 30 seconds. The fuel was almost gone. If they ran out before landing, the module would drop like a rock, crash into the surface, game over. Armstrong kept flying, kept searching, and then touchdown. They had 25 seconds of fuel remaining. 25 seconds. That's all that stood between triumph and tragedy. It was the closest landing in NASA history, but that was just the beginning. Armstrong and Aldrin spent 21 hours on the lunar surface. They collected rocks, took photos, planted the flag. Everything was perfect. Then it was time to leave. Aldrin was preparing for liftoff. He was moving around the cramped lunar module, and then he saw something on the floor. A small piece of plastic. He picked it up. It was a circuit breaker switch, and it had broken off. Now you have to understand what this meant. That switch controlled the engine that would lift them off the moon. The ascent engine, the only way they were getting home. Without that switch, no engine, no liftoff, no return. They would be stuck on the moon, forever. Aldrin stared at the broken switch in his hand. Then, he looked at the instrument panel, at the hole where the switch was supposed to be, and his heart sank. He later wrote about that moment. He said he gulped hard. Mission Control didn't have a solution. They spent the night running simulations, trying to figure out how to fix it from 238,000 miles away. But there was no fix, no plan B. The astronauts were alone, and they were running out of time. But Aldrin was an engineer. He had trained for years to handle any emergency. And now, staring at that broken switch, he had an idea. He looked at the opening where the switch should have been. It was small, narrow, but if he could find something to push into the circuit, it might hold. There was a problem. The circuit carried electrical current. He couldn't use his finger, and he couldn't use anything metal. One wrong move, one short circuit, and the whole system would fry. So Aldrin looked around the cabin. He checked his pockets. His spacesuit had pockets. It was a design feature the Apollo astronauts had insisted on. And inside one of those pockets was a simple, ordinary object, a felt-tip pen. Aldrin took the pen. He carefully inserted it into the small opening. He pushed it in, and the circuit held. The engine would fire. They were going home. To this day, Buzz Aldrin still has that broken circuit breaker switch and the felt-tip pen that saved his life. But wait, there's more. As they were returning to Earth, yet another disaster nearly struck. The service module was supposed to detach from the command module and fly away. Instead, it chased them. Aldrin looked out the window and saw it, flying dangerously close, way too close. He radioed Mission Control. "Houston, we got the service module going by. A little high and a little bit to the right." Then, moments later, "It's coming across now from right to left." He watched it fly past their window, inches away. If it had hit them, it could have destroyed their capsule. They could have burned up on re-entry. NASA didn't even know about this problem until weeks later. They reviewed the tapes and realized how close they had come. And there's one more detail. President Nixon had a secret speech prepared, an address to the nation announcing the deaths of Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins. He was ready to tell the world the mission had failed. The speech was never delivered, but it existed. So here's my question to you. Could you do it? Could you keep your cool? If you were on the moon, 238,000 miles from home, no oxygen, no help, no way out, and you had one broken switch between you and certain death, could you keep your head? Could you find a solution? Would you even have a pen in your pocket? Comment below, yes or no. And subscribe for more real space stories that sound like science fiction, but actually happened.